3.5 years ago, I quit drinking. And also, just about 3.5 years ago, my filmmaking career started to take off. Coincidence? Let's talk about those. So, last summer, I was on a morning run when I saw a kayak in someone's driveway with a sign on it that said free. After a few seconds of looking at this kayak, I realized that this kayak was my kayak that I lost the summer before. At the time, I was so upset that I lost it because this particular kayak was very important to me during one particular summer in my life, summer of 2020. Like many, the state of the world had left me feeling incredibly overwhelmed and anxious. And so I would jump on this kayak and go explore these little marsh islands off of Long Beach. And on those little islands, I felt at peace, which was a feeling that was rare for me that summer. That summer feels like a strange blur to me, and my heart hurts for that version of myself. 2020 Kyle was clearly struggling. 2020 Kyle knew deep down that he wanted to be sober, but was afraid to do that. In many ways, my filmmaking journey and my problematic relationship to alcohol have always kind of gone hand in hand over the years. After Hurricane Sandy, I decided life was way too short not to pursue what you love. So I started to pursue filmmaking. That meant many late nights of working on my short films while my family was asleep. And in that time, I would also drink a glass of wine or two to unwind from the day. And although it's probably a bit more complicated than that, this is kind of how it started. Anyways, a couple of years into this nightly routine, I realized I had a problem, but I was afraid to say it out loud. So I did the next best thing. I started to drop Easter eggs in all the art that I made. You see, fiction can be a great place to explore things you are struggling with in your real life with the safety of pretending you're not actually doing just that. A lot of the characters in my short films had complicated relationships to alcohol, but if you weren't paying attention too much, you might miss it. That was until I made my short film, Club Soda. I wrote this film after my first real attempt to get sober in the summer of 2019, an attempt which lasted 2 months before I tricked myself into believing I could go back to drinking responsibly. Anyways, on the surface, Club Soda is about a guy who finds out minutes before arriving to a birthday party that the host of the party, Jack, has unfriended him on Facebook. So he spends the whole party building up more and more resentments against Jack until he finally explodes and causes a big scene in front of everyone. Underneath the surface, though, this is a film about my desire to be sober, but my inability to follow through. Jack, the host of the party, is sober, and so there is no alcohol at the party, just seltzers, hence the title Club Soda. And the character I play, Nate, is so uncomfortable with the fact that there's no drinking at this party that he goes out to the trunk of his car throughout the night to find his secret stash. Nate badly wants what Jack has, but he's totally unwilling to self-reflect. He believes the conflict between him and Jack is over being unfriended on social media. But the real conflict is that he and Jack were once kindred spirits and drinking buddies. But Jack cleaned up, and Nate just can't do it. Now that I'm 3.5 years sober, it's hard for me to go back and watch this film because it feels like showing someone my diary. At the same time, though, I'm glad that I made this idea real and turned it into art. It's actually pretty funny how this film came together because it's actually another example of no-budget filmmaking at its finest. I knew I wanted to make a film that takes place at a party, so I kind of hijacked my own birthday party that year to turn it into a movie set. When I invited everyone to my birthday party that summer, I was explicitly clear on the invitation that we would be filming for my latest short film. So if you were cool with being an extra in the film, let me know. A couple of people didn't want to be in the film, and I respected that and left them out of the filming. But for the most part, my friends were down to be a part of it. I also got one of my best friends, Sean, to play Jack in the film. And so one day, him and his wife, Maria, came over to do a table reading. At the time, we needed to find someone to play my girlfriend in the film because my wife, Bethany, was going to be the cinematographer for this project. And while doing the table reading, Sean's wife, Maria, said she would play the girlfriend part if needed. And so that's essentially how we casted all the main characters in this film. It was very funny at times to pretend that one of my best friend's wives was my girlfriend while my wife was filming the whole thing. But I think everyone did a great job, and it led to some really good laughs throughout the shoot.
I don't know what to do. I am so not flirty.
What's that? No, I asked her to whisper to me something.
I said, don't flirt with me, but whisper sweet nothings.
No, it's...
No, it's cool. It's whatever.
It's so awkward, confounded by we're in front of the camera and,
front of
and you guys
I released Club Soda in January of 2020, only 2 months away from the world shutting down because of COVID. The film got a good response from friends and family, but was never picked up by any film curation sites, which, was always my goal with every short film I made. I had no access to a wider audience at the time, so my only hope with each film that I made was that a website like Short of the Week or No Budge would help me find one. But it didn't work out this time. Anyways, flash forward a couple months into the summer of 2020, and I'm struggling hard with anxiety, and I am using all the wrong things to cope with that anxiety. However, at the same time, I started to experiment with collage and mixed media animations that summer. I make a music video for my friend Nobi, I make some videos for my own music, and slowly, without even realizing it, I am entering into a new chapter of my filmmaking journey, one that just a year later will start to pay off. As for that kayak mentioned before, I started to incorporate it into my daily schedule, and it made me realize that physical exercise just might be a helpful tool for fighting against anxiety. Therefore, when autumn came and it got too cold to kayak, I started to run every morning, and I fell in love with running. And for a while, I had this deep internal conflict. I couldn't fully understand why I was doing something so destructive for myself every night, but then in the morning, I was doing something so healthy for myself. I lived in this gray area for about a year until October 29th, 2021, while I was out on a morning run. It was the 9th anniversary of Hurricane Sandy, and I thought, if I make this my sobriety date, this will be a day to celebrate every year instead of a somber day in my memory. And so my sober journey began for real. And then a month and a half into sobriety, I did something that I probably wouldn't recommend others do, but hey, it kind of worked for me. I told the internet about it. Only a month and a half in, and I made a video about my sober journey. Pretty bold, I know. But at the same time, I wonder if in some ways it helped keep me accountable. My biggest secret was now publicly broadcasted to my growing audience on TikTok and my friends and family on Instagram. And to my surprise, the response was beautiful and encouraging. Around this time was also when I realized exactly what was my superpower on the internet. And that was that when I combined mixed media animations with storytelling, stories from my life that were open and honest, people seemed to gravitate towards those. It's funny to think I spent so many years hiding behind fiction when it turns out people found my actual life way more interesting. And so I started to share stories about grief, anxiety, sobriety, and coincidences. Coincidences that felt stranger than fiction. Coincidences that I don't think were actually coincidences all along. Coincidences that have shaped me into the person I am today. Coincidentally or not, here I am. 3.5 years sober and currently living out my dream of being a full-time creative. I used to think that sobriety would dull down my creativity or make my art lose its magic. But the last 3.5 years have shown that I was completely wrong about that. And I imagine there's at least a handful of creative people watching this video right now that can 100% relate to me. And if that's you, I hope this video serves as encouragement. Sobriety is not easy, but man, oh man, is it worth it. I wish you luck on your journey. Godspeed.